She pinned me down in the gym, then purred. I win. Now what do I get? Reaches its explosive climax as Isaac and Analysis infiltrate the simulation control room to broadcast Colonel Vice's treachery shipwide. When Vice emerges with his weapon drawn, Analysis pounces with lightning speed, pinning him against the wall, mirroring their first encounter, and snarls, I win! Now what do I get? As the damning evidence transmits across the entire Coalition fleet. The Razor Wind's training deck reeked of metal and sweat. Isaac stood at the entrance, watching the squad's sparring matches while the gravity amplifiers hummed in the background. Overhead, holo displays flickered with vitals and performance metrics, casting blue shadows across the mats below. Isaac rolled his shoulders, feeling the familiar tightness where scar tissue knotted across his left deltoid, a souvenir from the Rigel campaign. Today marked his third week as instructor for the 87th Tactical Response Unit, an experimental squad composed of both humans and non-humans. The Coalition brass had assigned him here after his excessive initiative during the Callisto insurrection. Excessive initiative, military speak for disobeying a bad order that would have gotten civilians killed. They couldn't court-martial a hero, but they could certainly shuffle him sideways into what they hoped would be career purgatory. Isaac scanned the training deck, evaluating the squad's progress. Most were performing adequately, though tension lingered between the human and non-human contingents. His gaze paused on the far corner, where Annalisa observed the proceedings, arms crossed. The squad had nicknamed her Analysis, a play on her name, and her uncanny ability to break down an opponent's fighting style within seconds. She stood apart from the others, her white fur gleaming under the harsh lights, violet eyes tracking every movement on the mats. Those eyes weren't just unusual. They were engineered, part of her species' adaptation to low-light hunting environments. Even from across the room, Isaac could see the faint luminescence. Sir, Lieutenant Hadley approached, lowering his voice. You might want to establish boundaries with the Sylvan. She's driven 3 instructors off this ship already. Isaac watched Analysis flex her clawed hands. Her file says she's conditionally integrated. What did she do to get exiled from her clan? Nobody knows. Or nobody's saying. Hadley's expression darkened. But Colonel Vice has her on a short leash. One incident, and she's in the brig or worse. Isaac nodded, making his decision. Time to address the white-furred elephant in the room. The squad's sparring intensified as he crossed the deck, conversations dropping to murmurs. Analysis uncrossed her arms as he approached, her whiskers twitching slightly, the only indication she'd noticed him at all. You haven't joined the exercises, Isaac said. Analysis tilted her head. Her voice was unexpectedly melodic, with a subtle purr underneath. These exercises are beneath me, instructor. You're top of the unit in all combat metrics. Isaac kept his tone neutral. Let's see it. The room went silent. The gravity amplifiers spiked briefly, a momentary heaviness, as if the air itself had become dense with anticipation. Analysis smiled, revealing sharp canines. As you wish. They circled each other on the mat, the squad forming a ring around them. Isaac settled into a defensive stance, analyzing her movement. She was lighter than him, faster certainly, but he had reach and weight. If he could keep her at distance, use her momentum against her. She moved. A white blur, Isaac countered, deflecting her first strike and spinning into what should have been a shoulder lock. But she'd baited him, flowing like water around his grip. When he recovered, she was already behind him. He barely blocked a kick aimed at his kidney, feeling the power behind it, not holding back. Then, good. For 3 minutes, they exchanged blows and counters, a dangerous dance of precision and power. Isaac landed a solid combination that would have dropped most opponents, but Analysis absorbed the impact, retreating momentarily to reassess. Her violet eyes narrowed, calculating. Isaac pressed his advantage, closing the distance to neutralize her speed. A feint, a sweep, and she caught his arm, twisted, and suddenly the world tilted. His back hit the mat with shocking force. Before he could recover, she was above him, straddling his chest, one clawed hand pinning his wrist, the other hovering near his throat. Her fur brushed against his jaw, white and soft despite the violence of their exchange. She leaned close, her purr vibrating against his chest as she whispered, "I win. Now what do I get?" Isaac was acutely aware of the silence around them. The squad's collective breath held. His pride stung. But something else bloomed alongside it. Respect. This wasn't just brute strength. There was cunning behind those violet eyes. "You get to lead tomorrow's tactical exercise," he said, his voice steady despite his racing pulse. Analysis held his gaze for a moment longer before releasing him and standing in one fluid motion. "I look forward to it. Instructor." The squad erupted in murmurs as Isaac got to his feet, rubbing his wrist where her claws had pressed. He'd underestimated her, a mistake he wouldn't make twice. In the locker room afterward, Isaac replayed the match in his mind as cold water sluiced over his shoulders. Her technique wasn't pure military. There were elements of something older, more primal. Where his movements were calculated, hers flowed from deep instinct, sharpened by study. He'd approached the match as a demonstration. She'd treated it as a hunt. "Rough day, sir." Hadley handed him a towel. "Educational," Isaac replied, shutting off the water. "What's the word on Analysis's background before coalition service?" Hadley glanced around before answering. "Sylvan clans are matriarchal predator societies. Males serve as hunters and protectors. Females lead and decide. For one to be exiled, it's unusual. Some say she killed a superior. Others say she refused a mating bond with a dominant female. Scuttlebutt changes weekly." "And Colonel Vice's interest?" "He oversees all non-human integration, but he watches her closer than most." Isaac nodded, filing the information away. "Tomorrow we run the mining rig simulation. Tell Analysis. I want to see her battle plans before lights out." Hadley's eyebrows shot up. "Sir, you're letting her—" "She earned it," Isaac cut him off. "On the mat, rank doesn't matter. Skill does." The next morning, Isaac stood in the command booth overlooking the simulation chamber. The space had been configured as a large asteroid mining facility. Cramped corridors, processing equipment, maintenance tunnels, and a central operations hub. The scenario: pirates attacking a civilian mining operation. "Surprise change," Colonel Vice announced, entering the booth. He was a tall, lean man with a permanent squint, as if perpetually suspicious of what he was seeing. "You and the Sylvan will co-lead this exercise." Isaac kept his expression neutral. "Sir, Command wants to assess cross-species tactical integration. You'll defend the facility. The rest of the squad plays the attacking force." Vice handed him a datapad. "Restricted personnel access only. Command lock code is Theta 59. "Yes, sir." Isaac accepted the pad, noting how Vice's gaze remained fixed on Analysis as she prepared with the squad below. "Instructor," Vice's voice dropped. "Remember that some experiments are designed to fail. Document everything." Before Isaac could respond, Vice left the booth. The implication was clear. Set Analysis up to fail. Provide the evidence needed to remove her from the program. Instead, Isaac descended to the simulation floor where Analysis waited, her tail swishing slowly, a sign of irritation or anticipation. He wasn't sure which. "Change of plans," he told her. "We're partnered. The squad's our opposition." Her violet eyes widened briefly. "Interesting. They expect us to fail." "Probably." A smile curled her muzzle. "Then we should disappoint them spectacularly." The simulation began with a blaring alarm. Isaac and Analysis retreated to the central hub, barricading entrances and establishing defensive positions. With only the two of them against 12, Conventional tactics wouldn't work. They'll expect us to hold position, Analysis said, studying the facility layout. We should hunt instead. Isaac raised an eyebrow. We're outnumbered 6-1. Numbers mean nothing in these tunnels. Her claws tapped the maintenance shaft access points. My people hunt in the forest canopy. This isn't so different. Their plan was unorthodox, using the maintenance tunnels to set ambushes, separating the attacking squad, and picking them off in small groups. Isaac took the upper levels, while Analysis worked the lower sections. What began as a defense quickly turned into a predatory game. They coordinated with minimal communication, reading each other's movements, anticipating needs. When Isaac found himself cornered by 3 attackers, Analysis appeared from a ceiling vent, dropping behind them with silent precision. When she later tripped an alarm, drawing 4 squad members to her position, Isaac cut off their retreat, catching them in a perfect crossfire. 2 hours later, they stood victorious in the central hub, the entire attacking force eliminated. The simulation ended with a tone and the facility lights brightening to normal levels. Colonel Weiss's voice came over the speakers, tight with barely concealed displeasure. Exercise completed. All personnel report for debrief in 30 minutes. Analysis turned to Isaac, violet eyes bright with something beyond the thrill of victory. We work well together, Instructor. Isaac, he corrected her, when we're not in formal settings. Isaac, she repeated, testing the name. You still owe me a prize for yesterday's victory. I thought leading the exercise was your prize. She stepped closer. Her scent, something like cedar and ozone, filling his awareness. That was Colonel Weiss's decision, not yours. Before he could respond, the squad began filtering back into the central area. Simulation weapons deactivated. The moment passed, but something had changed between them, a first glimmer of trust born in the artificial battlefield. That night, unable to sleep, Isaac found himself in the restricted records chamber. His instructor clearance gave him access to basic personnel files, but anything deeper required special authorization. Colonel Weiss's datapad, however, had provided something unexpected, a command override code. Isaac hesitated, fingers hovering over the terminal. This crossed a line, one that could end his career if discovered. But Weiss's words echoed in his mind. Some experiments are designed to fail. What game was the colonel playing, and why was Analysis at the center of it? He entered the code, Theta 59. The system unlocked, classified files cascading across the screen. Isaac's fingers moved quickly, searching for Analysis's complete record. When he found it, the truth stunned him. Analysis hadn't been exiled for killing a superior or refusing a bond. She'd been cast out for defying her clan's decree, forbidding assistance to human settlements during the Proxima raids. She'd led a rogue group of Sylvan warriors to defend a human colony when the coalition forces were delayed. They'd saved over 300 civilians, but violated the clan's neutrality policy. Her exile had been the price of her compassion. A soft voice behind him froze his blood. Finding what you're looking for, Instructor. Isaac turned slowly. Analysis stood in the doorway, her white fur almost luminous in the dim light. Violet eyes narrowed. You should have asked me directly, she said, approaching with silent steps. Would you have told me the truth? Perhaps not. She stopped before him, close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her body. But now you've stolen it instead. Isaac held his ground. Why didn't you tell anyone why you were exiled? It would have helped your integration. Because it wasn't their business. Her voice sharpened. Just as it isn't yours. Weiss is setting you up to fail, Isaac said. I needed to understand why. Analysis moved with blinding speed, her hand at his throat, not squeezing, but a clear warning. My past is my own, Isaac. If you want to know me, earn it, don't steal it. They stood frozen, his back against the terminal, her forehead nearly touching his in a raw standoff. "I'm not your enemy," he said finally. She released him, stepping back. "Prove it." The confrontation in the records chamber changed things. Though they maintained professional composure during training, a new tension hummed between them, neither fully trust nor distrust, but something unsettled and expectant. 3 days later, that tension exploded into crisis. During a routine systems check, security flagged an unauthorized data breach traced to a gym terminal. Before investigators could determine what had been accessed, all hell broke loose. Isaac was leading hand-to-hand drills when the training hall security drones activated without warning. Designed for non-lethal crowd control, the drones were suddenly operating on assault protocols, targeting the youngest recruits with stun pulses that could kill at close range. "Cover!" Isaac shouted as the first pulse sizzled past his ear. The squad scattered, diving for protection behind training equipment. 2 rookies weren't fast enough. They dropped, convulsing as electricity coursed through their bodies. Analysis vaulted over a weight rack, tackling a drone in midair. Her claws tore into its housing, ripping out control circuits, even as it shocked her repeatedly. Isaac grabbed a metal bar, swinging it like a bat at another drone, knocking it into a wall. "The override terminal!" Analysis shouted through gritted teeth. Isaac fought his way across the room, dodging pulses as 3 more drones focused on him. He reached the wall panel, punching in his security code. Nothing happened. "It's been locked out!" he called. Analysis snarled, leaping onto another drone, using it as a shield against its companions before smashing it into the floor. Blood matted her white fur where a pulse had scorched her shoulder. Isaac spotted the maintenance hatch near the gravity controls. "Analysis! The primary coupling!" She understood immediately, diving toward the controls, while Isaac provided covering fire with a fallen drone's power cell. Together, they reached the maintenance panel, tore it open, and yanked the primary power coupling free. The training hall plunged into darkness, emergency lights casting everything in dim red. The drones dropped, powerless. In the aftermath, medical teams rushed the injured rookies to sickbay. Colonel Weiss arrived minutes later, his face a mask of concerned authority. "A terrible malfunction," he announced, surveying the damage. "Initial reports suggest someone attempted to hack the gym's training profiles and triggered a security response." His gaze slid to Analysis, who stood with her fur still smoking slightly from electrical burns. "Given the unauthorized data access traced to this facility earlier today, we'll need to conduct a full investigation. All non-human personnel are temporarily restricted to quarters." Isaac stepped forward. "Sir, Analysis just saved lives. Without her, I'm well aware of the Sylvan's actions. Instructor." Weiss cut him off. "However, protocol is clear. Security Officer Tanner will escort her to quarters while we determine exactly what happened." Analysis's violet eyes met Isaac's briefly before she allowed herself to be led away. In that moment, something silent passed between them. A warning, a plea. He wasn't sure which. That night, Isaac paced his quarters, reviewing what he knew. The data breach, the drone malfunction. It was too convenient, too targeted. And Weiss had been quick to restrict non-human personnel, despite Analysis's heroism. His door chimed softly. When it slid open, Analysis stood there, her fur freshly groomed. No sign of the security escort that should have been monitoring her. "How did you—" he began. "Tanner is sleeping peacefully," she said, slipping inside. "He'll wake with no memory of dozing off." Isaac closed the door. "You shouldn't be here." "And you shouldn't have accessed my records. Yet here we are." She moved to his terminal. "I need your help." "What's happening?" Analysis's expression darkened. "Weiss is framing me. The data breach was executed using my access codes, but I never left my quarters this morning. The drone attack targeted the 2 human rookies who've been most friendly toward non-human squad members. Creating an incident to justify a crackdown, Isaac realized. But why? Because integration is failing by design. Her claws tapped rapidly on his terminal. Vice has been systematically engineering conflicts between human and non-human personnel across 3 ships. Today was just the most dramatic example. That's a serious accusation. Which is why I need evidence. She looked up at him, violet eyes intense. The command code from his datapad. Do you remember it? Theta 59, Isaac said. But it won't work again. They'll have changed it after the breach was discovered. Not this code. Analysis's mouth curled into a predatory smile. This is a backdoor into the ship's simulator control system. Vice doesn't know I saw him use it during an equipment malfunction last month, when a Pirellian nearly died during a routine exercise. Understanding dawned on Isaac. The simulator records everything for training analysis, including Vice's private commands when he thinks no one is watching. They worked through the night, Analysis bypassing security protocols while Isaac kept watch. When they finally accessed the simulator's archived recordings, the evidence was damning. Vice had been deliberately sabotaging cross-species exercises, manipulating environmental controls to disadvantage non-human physiology, and documenting failures that he himself had engineered. More disturbing were his private communications with an unknown contact, identified only as Chimera Project Lead, discussing field testing opportunities and containment protocols for the Sylvan subject. "He's using me," Analysis whispered, ears flattening against her head. "Whatever this Chimera Project is, he's gathering data on how I react under stress." Isaac studied the communications more closely. There's something bigger happening. These protocols, the terminology, it's not standard coalition procedure. It reads like a weapons development program. "Using my people as templates." Analysis's voice hardened. "We need to expose this." "How?" "We illegally accessed classified communications. They'll court-martial me and disappear you before we can present any evidence." Analysis's violet eyes gleamed in the dim light of the terminal. "Then we don't ask permission. We broadcast it to the entire ship." The plan was audacious to the point of insanity. They would hijack the simulator feed during a scheduled all-hands training demonstration, streaming Vice's orders and communications to every terminal on the ship. But to access the primary broadcast node, they'd need to reach the core simulation control room, which meant getting past armed security and Vice himself. They moved at dawn, using Isaac's instructor codes to access the lower maintenance corridors. Analysis led the way, her enhanced senses detecting security patrols before they appeared. Twice, they had to duck into service closets, pressed together in darkness as boots marched past. "Why are you risking everything for this?" Analysis whispered during one such hide. "Your career, possibly your life." Isaac met her gaze in the dimness. "Because it's right. Because what Vice is doing threatens everything the Coalition claims to stand for." He paused. "And because you're part of my squad now, we protect our own." Her expression softened momentarily, something vulnerable flickering behind her violet eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by determined focus. 3 more sections to the core. They encountered the first real resistance at the simulation deck entrance. 2 guards, fully armed, stood before the sealed doors. "I'll distract them," Isaac said. "When they pursue me, you—" Analysis touched his arm, silencing him. "Trust me," she said. Then she stepped into the corridor, swaying slightly as if injured. "Help," she called weakly. "Something's wrong with the environmental controls in Section 7. I can't breathe." She collapsed convincingly. The guards exchanged glances, one moving cautiously toward her, while the other remained at his post. When the first guard knelt beside her, Analysis moved with lightning speed, delivering a precise strike to his neck that rendered him unconscious instantly. Before the second guard could raise his weapon, Isaac emerged from hiding, tackling him to the ground and subduing him with a sleeper hold. They secured the unconscious guards in a maintenance closet and used their access cards to enter the simulation deck. Inside, technicians prepared for the demonstration, running final checks on the systems. Colonel Weiss stood at the central console, reviewing protocols. Analysis nodded toward a secondary access panel. "We need to reach the broadcast router behind the main console." They crawled beneath the raised flooring, navigating through a maze of cables and power conduits. From below, they could hear Weiss instructing the technicians. "Today's demonstration will feature our non-human integration protocols. Captain Reynolds and the command staff will be evaluating our progress, so everything must be perfect." Isaac and Analysis reached the access point beneath the main console. Just a few meters separated them from their goal, and from Weiss's boots, visible through the grating above. "Now what?" Isaac whispered. Analysis pointed to the emergency system purge button near the floor. "Create a distraction. When they evacuate, I'll access the router. That'll trigger a security response. We only need 90 seconds to initiate the broadcast." Isaac hesitated, then nodded. He crawled toward the purge button, positioned himself, and slammed his fist against it. Alarms blared. A computerized voice announced, "Warning! System purge initiated! Evacuate simulation deck immediately!" Boots thundered as technicians rushed for the exits. Through the grating, Isaac saw Weiss hesitate, scanning the room suspiciously before reluctantly moving toward the door. Analysis was already moving, pushing up the floor panel and vaulting into the now empty control center. Isaac followed, racing to the main console while she secured the doors, overriding the emergency protocols to seal them inside. "Hurry," she urged. "Security will override that lock in minutes." Isaac's fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing the broadcast system. He plugged in a data crystal containing the evidence they'd gathered, initiating broadcast to all ship terminals. The main screen flickered, then displayed Weiss's recorded orders to sabotage non-human training exercises, his communications with the Chimera project, his instructions to frame Analysis for the drone attack. "Transmission active," Isaac confirmed. "The whole ship is seeing this." The sealed doors began to glow red as security teams attempted to cut through from the outside. Analysis's ears swiveled toward the sound, then back to another noise, a maintenance hatch opening behind them. Colonel Weiss emerged, weapon drawn. "I suspected someone might try something foolish," he said, training his pistol on Isaac. "But I didn't expect it from you, instructor. I thought you understood chain of command." "I understand integrity," Isaac replied, continuing the broadcast sequence. "And whatever you're doing with this Chimera project violates everything the Coalition stands for." Weiss's mouth twisted. "The Coalition stands for humanity's dominance. These integration experiments were never meant to succeed. They're data gathering for the next phase of our security protocols." "Using my people as templates for weapons," Analysis growled, her fur bristling. "Your people are perfectly evolved predators," Weiss said. "Why reinvent what nature has perfected? We simply needed to understand the limitations, the breaking points." He gestured with his weapon. "Step away from the console, both of you." Isaac's hand hovered over the final command. One more keystroke would make the broadcast permanent, unable to be scrubbed from the system. Weiss fired, the shot grazing Isaac's shoulder. He stumbled back, hand clutching the wound. Analysis moved like liquid lightning, crossing the space between them before Weiss could adjust his aim. She knocked the weapon from his hand and drove him backward against the wall. In a perfect mirror of her takedown in the gym, she pinned him, one hand at his throat, claws extended, but not yet breaking skin. "I win," she snarled, violet eyes blazing. "Now what do I get?" Weiss struggled against her grip, face contorted with hatred. "You'll never be anything but an animal. The Coalition will hunt you down for this." Isaac pressed the final command, completing the transmission. "It's done. The entire Coalition fleet just received your orders and communications. It's over. Weiss." Analysis released the colonel, shoving him roughly aside. "We need to move, now!" They fled through the maintenance hatch as security finally breached the main doors. The ship's corridors had become a chaotic maze as personnel reacted to the broadcast. Some rushing to duty stations. Others gathered around terminals discussing what they'd seen. "This way," Isaac directed, leading them toward the lower decks. "We can use the cargo transport system to reach Hangar 7. Analysis followed, her movements betraying no pain, despite the minor wounds she'd sustained. "They're initiating lockdown protocols. The bulkheads will seal in 60 seconds. They raced through increasingly empty corridors, the sound of pursuing security teams echoing behind them. Ahead, massive bulkhead doors began slowly descending. "We won't make it," Isaac gasped, clutching his injured shoulder. Analysis grabbed his good arm. "Then we make a new path." She yanked him toward a maintenance shaft, prying open the access panel with her claws. "In!" They crawled through claustrophobic maintenance tunnels, bypassing sealed sections of the ship. Analysis navigated with unerring precision, leading them through the ship's hidden arteries. "How do you know these routes?" Isaac asked, as they paused at a junction. "I memorized the ship schematics my first week aboard," she replied. "Always know your escape routes." "You expected this?" Her violet eyes met his in the dimness. "I expected something. My exile taught me to prepare for betrayal." They emerged finally into a secondary shuttle bay, unused except for emergency evacuations. Alarm klaxons still blared throughout the ship, but this section remained untouched by the security sweep. "What now?" Isaac asked, scanning the bay. "Every ship in the fleet will be looking for us." Analysis approached a communications terminal. "We don't run, not yet." Her claws tapped a series of commands. "Captain Reynolds needs to hear our side directly." An hour later, they sat in Captain Reynolds' private wardroom, surrounded by armed guards, but no longer treated as fugitives. The broadcast had done its work. Weiss had been quietly detained, pending a full investigation of the Chimera project and his manipulation of the integration program. "Your methods were unorthodox and violated multiple regulations," Captain Reynolds said, her stern face betraying little emotion. "However, the evidence you presented warrants serious consideration." She turned to Analysis. "The Coalition formally apologizes for Colonel Weiss's actions. His prejudice does not reflect official policy regarding non-human integration." Analysis's expression remained neutral. "Words are easy, Captain. Actions matter more." "Indeed," Reynolds nodded. "Which is why I'm reassigning both of you, effective immediately. You'll head a new Special Operations Unit, codenamed Fang Division. Your first assignment is to investigate a decommissioned research facility, Drift Station Echo 6. "What are we looking for?" Isaac asked. "Evidence of whatever this Chimera project truly is," Reynolds replied. "Colonel Weiss's communications suggest experimental work being conducted beyond Coalition oversight. Find it, document it, report back." As they left the wardroom, Isaac turned to Analysis. "You don't seem surprised by this outcome." "Politics," she said simply. "The captain can't publicly acknowledge Weiss's actions without embarrassing command. So, instead, we're sent to clean up the mess quietly." "Is that enough for you?" Analysis considered the question, her tail swishing thoughtfully. "For now, the truth isn't finished revealing itself." She glanced at his bandaged shoulder. "You should have medical check that before we depart." "It's fine," Isaac insisted. "Just a graze." "You humans," she sighed, a hint of her purr returning. "Always pretending you're invulnerable." The next day, Fang Division was officially activated. A small, mixed unit of human and non-human specialists, handpicked by Isaac and Analysis. Their mission brief was deliberately vague: investigate potential security threats at frontier installations. They departed aboard a retrofitted scout vessel. Coordinates set for the abandoned drift station Echo 6. During the 3-day journey, The newly formed team trained together in the ship's compact simulation chamber, learning to leverage their diverse physiologies and abilities. Analysis proved to be a natural leader, her tactical insight complementing Isaac's strategic experience. Together, they forged the disparate specialists into a cohesive unit. At night, they often found themselves in the small observation lounge, discussing the mission ahead. Echo 6 was officially a mining research station, Isaac said, reviewing the sparse files they'd been provided. Decommissioned 2 years ago due to structural instability. Analysis's ears twitched skeptically. Perfect cover for classified research, remote, legitimate reason to evacuate, and already equipped with necessary infrastructure. You think Vice was operating there? I think Vice was a middleman, she replied. A convenient bigot who could be trusted to maintain separation between official coalition policy and whatever they're truly developing. Their arrival at Echo 6 did nothing to alleviate their suspicions. The station hung in the darkness of a mineral-rich asteroid field, externally intact despite its supposed structural issues. No lights shone from its viewports, but passive scans detected minimal power signatures deep within. Life support is active in the central sections, reported Kiri, their technical specialist. Minimal, but present. Someone's home, Isaac murmured. Analysis studied the station schematic. We go in quiet. 2 teams. Isaac and I will take point with Ralden and Santos. The rest of you maintain position here and be ready for extraction. Ralden, a towering Pirellian with 4 arms and gray-green skin, checked his weapons. What resistance should we expect? Unknown, Isaac replied honestly. But if this is connected to the Chimera project, proceed with extreme caution. They docked at an auxiliary port, bypassing the main airlock where any surveillance would likely be concentrated. The station interior was cold and dark, emergency lighting casting long shadows down empty corridors. Their footsteps echoed on metal gratings, impossibly loud in the stillness. This place stinks of fear, Analysis said softly, her sensitive nose wrinkling. Isaac glanced at her. Human fear? And something else. She paused, ears swiveling. Something wrong. They proceeded deeper into the facility, passing abandoned research labs and living quarters. Everything appeared to have been left in haste. Personal items scattered, meals half-eaten, workstations still powered. Whatever happened here, it wasn't a planned evacuation, Santos observed, examining a family photo left on a desk. In the central research hub, they found the first evidence of violence. Dried bloodstains on the floor, deep gouges in the metal walls. Claw marks. Analysis knelt, examining the gouges. Not Sylvan. The pattern is wrong, the spacing too wide. Ralden's upper hands tightened on his weapon. Are we looking at a new species? Or a manufactured one, Isaac said grimly. They accessed the central computer, Kiri working remotely from the ship to bypass security protocols. The research logs appeared mostly intact, documenting a project codenamed Adaptive Predator Initiative. They were combining DNA from multiple apex predator species. Isaac read, scrolling through the files. Sylvan reflexes and sensory capacity, Pirellian strength, human cognitive flexibility. Playing gods, Ralden rumbled, his normally stoic expression darkening. A noise echoed from the corridor, a soft scraping sound, like claws on metal. All 4 team members froze, weapons raised. Motion at Junction 7, Santos whispered, checking his scanner. Analysis sniffed the air, her pupils dilating. It's hunting us. The attack came with terrifying speed. Something large and shadowed burst from a ventilation shaft, moving with fluid grace despite its size. In the dimness, Isaac caught glimpses of fur and scales, claws and metal components integrated into flesh. Santos fired, the shots illuminating their attacker briefly, a nightmare amalgamation of biological and mechanical parts. It had a vaguely sylvan silhouette, but was nearly twice Analysis's size, with exposed musculature augmented by hydraulic systems. The creature shrugged off the weapon's fire, leaping across the hub and seizing Ralden before anyone could react. The Pirellian's forearms struggled against his attacker, his superior strength momentarily holding the creature at bay. "Go!" he shouted. "It's adapting to our weapons!" Isaac and Analysis fired repeatedly, trying to draw the creature away from their teammate. It turned toward them, revealing a face that was a grotesque approximation of a Sylvan's features. Violet eyes, glowing with artificial enhancement. "Prototype!" Analysis hissed in revulsion. The creature released Ralden, who slumped to the floor, and launched itself toward Analysis with obvious intent. She dodged, but it anticipated her movement, cutting off her escape route. Isaac tackled it from behind, driving his combat knife into a seam where flesh met mechanical components. The creature howled, a sound like nothing in nature, and thrashed, throwing him against a console with bone-cracking force. Analysis leapt onto its back, claws seeking vulnerable points. "Isaac, get Ralden!" Santos provided covering fire, while Isaac dragged the injured Pirellian toward the exit. The creature seemed fixated on Analysis now, ignoring the others as they retreated. "Analysis, fall back!" Isaac called. She disengaged with a final slash that opened the creature's throat, revealing not blood, but a glowing blue fluid. "Move!" They fled through the corridors, the wounded Ralden supported between Isaac and Santos. Behind them, the creature's howls changed pitch, becoming something more mechanical, more processed. "It's calling for reinforcements," Analysis said, her breathing controlled despite their sprint. They reached the airlock where Kiri waited with the rest of the team. As they hurried aboard, Isaac glanced back at the dark corridor behind them. "Were there more of those things in the data files?" he asked, as the ship detached from the station. Analysis shook her head. "That was a prototype, but it won't be the last." In the medical bay, they gathered around Ralden as the ship's doctor examined his wounds. The Pirellian's tough hide had prevented the worst damage, but deep gashes ran across his chest and arms, where the creature's claws had pierced his defenses. "These wounds are unusual," Dr. Mehta reported, studying her scans. "There appears to be some form of nanomachine contamination at the cellular level." "What does that mean?" Santos asked. Mehta's expression was grave. "It means the creature wasn't just trying to kill him. It was trying to convert him." Analysis and Isaac exchanged alarmed glances. "We need to report this to Captain Reynolds immediately," Isaac said. But when they attempted to contact the Razor Winds, they received only automated responses. Their mission status had been classified Level Black. No direct communication permitted until return to base. "They're isolating us," Analysis realized. "Whatever we found, they don't want it on open channels. Or they don't want us warning anyone else," Isaac added grimly. 2 days into their return journey, Ralden's condition deteriorated rapidly. The nanomachine contamination spread, despite Dr. Mehta's best efforts to neutralize it. The Pirellian's skin began developing scale-like patches, and his vital signs fluctuated wildly. "I'm losing him," Mehta admitted, after another failed treatment attempt. "These nanomachines are adapting to every countermeasure faster than I can deploy them." Analysis stood at Ralden's bedside, her normal composure cracking as she watched her teammate suffer. "This is what they wanted all along," she said quietly. "Not integration, assimilation." Isaac placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll expose them. Analysis, I promise you." Ralden died the next morning. His body continued changing even after death, the nanomachines working tirelessly to reshape him into something else. Dr. Mehta was forced to place his remains in a sealed containment unit to prevent potential contamination of the ship. The grief and anger that swept through the small crew was palpable. What had begun as an investigation had become something deeply personal. They had lost one of their own to an abomination created by their own government. Isaac found Analysis in the observation lounge that evening, staring out at the stars streaking past. The coalition will cover this up, she said without turning. They'll classify our report, reassign us to separate posts, and continue the research elsewhere. Then we don't give them the chance. Isaac moved to stand beside her. Ralden deserves better. All of us do. She finally looked at him, violet eyes reflecting the starlight. What are you suggesting? We go semi-rogue. Before we dock at Razor Winds, we broadcast our findings through every independent relay and cargo node uplink we can access. Too widespread to contain. Too public to deny. Analysis studied him, a mix of surprise and respect in her expression. That's mutiny, Isaac. No, he countered. It's holding the coalition to its own stated principles. If they court-martial me for that, so be it. Her mouth curved into a small smile. Us, if they court-martial us. The plan required the cooperation of their entire team, each member risking their career and possibly their freedom. Yet none hesitated when Isaac and Analysis presented the idea. Ralden's death had united them in purpose, preventing the Chimera project from claiming more victims. They worked through the night, compiling their evidence into a comprehensive report. Kiri's technical expertise was crucial, preparing the data packet for maximum distribution across independent channels. Dr. Mehta contributed detailed medical analyses of the nanomachine contamination, while Santos and the others provided eyewitness accounts of the Echo 6 encounter. As they approached Coalition space, they executed their broadcast. The message streaked out across dozens of unsecured channels, reaching frontier settlements, independent trading vessels, and civilian communications hubs. By the time they docked at Razor Winds, their findings were spreading across the sector like wildfire. Captain Reynolds was waiting when they disembarked, her expression unreadable. That was a bold decision, Instructor, she said to Isaac, then nodded to Analysis. Both of you, in my ready room. Now. They followed her in silence, prepared for the worst. Inside the privacy of her office, Reynolds activated a signal jammer before speaking again. Your broadcast has created quite the political firestorm, she said, removing her uniform jacket. High Command is scrambling to contain the damage, issuing denials, questioning the authenticity of your evidence. It's all authentic, Analysis stated firmly. I know. Reynolds surprised them with a tight smile. Why do you think I sent you to Echo 6 in the first place? Isaac and Analysis exchanged glances. You knew? Isaac asked. I suspected. Reynolds pulled up a secure file on her terminal. The Chimera project has operated in shadows for years, with support from certain factions within High Command. Those of us who oppose it have been systematically sidelined or silenced. Then why not expose it yourself? Analysis demanded. Because I needed irrefutable evidence, gathered by officers whose loyalty couldn't be questioned. Reynolds looked directly at Analysis. A non-human officer who risked everything to uphold coalition principles makes a compelling witness. What happens now? Isaac asked. Officially, Fang Division will be reprimanded for unauthorized communication, but retained for specialized reconnaissance missions. Unofficially, you'll continue investigating Chimera project facilities, gathering evidence, and operating with a certain degree of autonomy. You're using us as your deniable assets, Analysis observed. Reynolds nodded. While I work within the system to build support for a formal inquiry, it's not ideal, but it's our best chance to dismantle this program before it goes further. And Ralden, Isaac asked. What about justice for him? Justice comes when we end this project completely. Reynolds replied, His death won't be in vain. I promise you that. In the weeks that followed, Fang Division solidified its unusual status, neither fully integrated into the command structure nor officially independent. They operated in the shadows of coalition space, warning outer colonies of the emerging threat. Their broadcast had accomplished one critical objective. Civilian monitoring networks were now alert for signs of the prototype creatures. Reports began filtering in from frontier settlements of unusual attacks, unexplained disappearances, and strange technological signatures matching those from Echo 6. The Chimera project was expanding its testing beyond controlled environments. Isaac and Analysis found themselves in a new kind of partnership, professional equals and personal allies against a threat few understood. Their team looked to them for leadership, trusting in their combined strengths to navigate the dangerous path ahead. One evening, nearly a month after the Echo 6 mission, they stood alone in the observation dome of their newly assigned vessel, a decommissioned recon ship retrofitted for Fang Division's specialized needs. The viewport showed the vast swirl of a distant nebula, beautiful and indifferent to the struggles of those who gazed upon it. "I still have nightmares about that creature," Analysis admitted quietly. "Not because it was terrifying, but because I recognized something in it. Some element of my own DNA, twisted into a weapon." Isaac nodded. "The worst monsters are the ones we create ourselves." She turned to him, violet eyes searching his face. "Why did you really stand with me, Isaac? From that first day in the gym. You could have set me up to fail like the others. It would have been easier." "I've never been interested in easy," he replied. "Only in right." He hesitated, then added, "And I recognize something in you, too. Not a weapon, but a warrior with principles worth fighting for." Analysis moved closer, her scent, cedar and ozone, familiar to him now. "My ribs were broken in 3 places after that creature threw you into the console. I didn't tell Meta." "Why not?" "Because some pain reminds us we're alive." Her mouth curved slightly. "And some trust must be earned through shared battle." Isaac reached out, gently touching a patch of fur at her temple that had never quite regrown properly after the electrical burns from the drone attack. "I think we've earned it, then." "We have," she agreed softly. "And we're not done fighting." "Together," he added. "Together." In that moment of quiet understanding, something solidified between them, a bond forged in crisis and tempered by shared purpose. Whatever came next, they would face it as partners. The ship's comm system chimed, breaking the silence. "Commanders," Kiri's voice announced, "we're receiving reports of unusual activity at Proxima Colony. Possible Chimera sighting." Analysis's ears pricked forward, alert and ready. She looked at Isaac, a familiar predatory gleam entering her violet eyes. Then, with startling speed, she pinned him playfully against the viewport, echoing their first encounter in the gym. "I win," she purred against his ear. "Now where to next?" Isaac laughed, the sound filling the observation dome and mingling with hers. Beyond them, the stars stretched endlessly, promising new horizons and battles yet to come. But for now, this moment was enough. 2 warriors, human and Sylvan, united against the darkness by something stronger than either of them alone.